720 AM and 101.5 FM here in Las Vegas. Today we have Jennifer Taylor from New Economy West Consulting, and she's also a board member with Green Alliance and their scribes. So we're talking legislation and trying to come up to speed from a little history. Prior to 2015, Nevada was the #1 employer of renewable energy jobs in the United States, and then some 2015 legislation altered the net metering and some tax credits, and people started running from it, and actually companies started running from Nevada. And then in 2017, we had a new bill come out that kind of corrected all that. Why don't you bring us up to speed on that bill, Jennifer?
Sure, that was AB 405, which was sponsored by Assemblyman Chris Brooks. It was originally sponsored by Assemblyman Justin Watkins, but Chris Brooks, who is our fantastic legislative champion on energy, really helped shape what that ended up looking like and how that brought the solar industry back into being the economic driver that it was prior to 2015. So what it did was it reestablished the one-to-one credit. It didn't reestablish the one-to-one credit. It set a system where there was no cap on rooftop solar installations, which had been one of the issues before 2015, before the PUC, undertook its docket in late 15 and early 2016. So AB 405 opened it up so there was no cap. Anybody can get rooftop solar if they want. But in exchange for that, what they did was they set up tranches. So anybody who had a system prior to the implementation of AB 405, which was July of 2017, would be grandfathered in at pre-existing rates, which was basically the one-to-one credit that existed before 2015. And then after that, as installations came on in, I think it's 200 megawatt tranches, the next 200 megawatts that were installed would get 95% of that payback, which really was a great way for the industry to be able to go back and say to folks, you're getting 95% of your credit sent in, and made it really economically viable. Then it goes down to 88%, 81%, 75% in 80 megawatt steps. So
and the lowest would be 75%, I think.
Right, 75%. Yep, that's the lowest.
So tell me this, for my edification, why was there ever a cap? It was growing so slowly. It's not like they would blow suddenly the energy company can't generate
Well,
energy
but think
anymore.
about it, Paul. Part of the reason there was, it initially was growing really slowly because it was mostly purchases only, and that was a very expensive investment until the price of rooftop solar started to really come down, and until the lease model that we were talking about came into the fore, because that really gave a lot of people opportunities to install rooftop solar and take advantage of those savings and give them the opportunity to be more green. But until that economic model was created innovatively, not everybody could do it. And so I think the cap, just like with any, I don't know, I wasn't really involved in legislation before 2015, but that cap, I think, was intended to let the industry grow in sort of a measured and sustainable, smart way.
Yeah,
So,
and I think any cap in legislation, it does kind of set in an automatic review when you get
Right.
close to that cap, which should have
Yeah.
happened, yeah. But I think 2014 was almost like a gold rush in solar, though. Things were coming so fast that NV Energy couldn't even process the
Well,
orders that were coming in, I think.
even in 2015, Stan, when you look at the number of those lease model rooftops that went in 2015, even after the session started, and even after there was a knowledge that there was going to be a cap and there was going to be a review. But that's all history, and that's important history, so that we understand that energy issues are constantly in flux, and we need, as citizens who care about these issues, to watch what's going on at the Public Utility Commission and watch what's going on at the legislature, and be mindful of how our legislators are shaping our energy policy, because Nevada really has the ability to continue to lead in clean technology, in clean energy, in solar, and all of those things. So, I would just say that AB 405 really fixed the system. The industry's back up and running. I had people, even though I have solar, I had people come to my door to try to sell me solar. So they, this is something that we can now look at proudly and say, this got fixed in 17, we had some, hiccups and we ironed it out. And we just need to make sure that no matter what happens with other issues, for example, question 3, which is the Energy Choice Initiative that would seek to unbundle how we get our energy, we want to make sure that those policies and those priorities are things that the state still focuses on and still looks at as important goals for how we do our energy policy.
So currently, the AB 405 fixed the solar issue, so now it's a good idea again. The jobs are coming back, the companies are coming back. I don't know where we stand as far as employment for renewable energy, but it's got to have increased. I don't know if we're the leaders anymore, but that could be.
I think we're back.
Are we back to
I
being the
think that
leaders?
we're back in sort of the top 5. But I mean, there's a lot of other issues too besides rooftop that have really made us stand out. And those are things like
Community solar.
Community solar is, so we can talk about community solar. So community solar is a way that folks that don't
That don't own the rooftops can have
that don't
solar.
own the rooftops, that don't have the right orientation on the rooftops, that don't have the financing, whether it's, because remember, even, if you purchase it, you got to have a certain amount of capital. If you lease it, you have to have a certain credit level.
Sure.
And that small communities can have, an access to solar. So the community solar bill, it's essentially virtual net metering. You're still kind of looking at a larger system that serves more than one rooftop. And there's still credits back and forth in between the generation and the distribution back and forth. So
Okay.
that bill was presented and was vetoed, but we know that there will be a community solar bill that will come back, and there's been a lot of discussions between some of the energy advocates and the utility to figure out the best way to make community solar work for the community.
Let's continue on here. NRS 704B. Talk about that quickly.
Yeah, NRS 704B is essentially it's a statutory structure that lets any entity that uses 1 megawatt or more of energy to ask the PUC to allow it to purchase its own energy outside of that vertically integrated structure that we have with NV Energy. So right now, NV Energy provides the generation, the distribution, the transmission, and the retailing of energy. You can only buy from NV Energy because they made a deal with the state of Nevada that said, you let us be the exclusive franchise of energy, and we will subject ourselves to regulation on how much we get to charge, on how much we get to recover when we build assets or purchase assets, and that's this regulatory compact. So during the Western energy crisis and the initial sort of round of efforts in Nevada to deregulate that, to unbundle that system.
This was in 2001 when California tried to deregulate. A lot of other states were starting the first wave of it, but they ran into trouble with market manipulation from Enron.
California in particular.
California, yeah.
Thanks for setting that marker there on
Right.
time frame. So when Nevada stopped working on deregulation, one of the sort of compromise pieces of legislation was this 704B structure. So if you've seen a lot in the news about casinos exiting the system, about Switch exiting the system, about companies exiting. And what it does is it says, you company are sophisticated and large enough that you can go buy your energy out on the wholesale market. But because of our long-term planning process, NV Energy has planned and purchased and done things to accommodate your load. So you need to then pay us an exit fee to make sure that the rest of the ratepayers are not being forced
Burdened,
to
yeah.
pay for what was built or acquired to accommodate your large load. So that's essentially 704B in a nutshell. There are a lot of questions and concerns with 704B, and there is a thought that 704B itself was one of the drivers for the Energy Choice Initiative, question 3. So I think that you will hear a lot more discussion about that after the election. I think you'll hear a lot more discussion about 704B and what we need to do to make it transparent, fair, modernized come February when the legislature opens up.
So that's good. The 2017 legislation, we had the mandate for 25%, and now in 2019 we've got some legislation that's going to bump that up a little bit. And we're going to talk about that when we come back. Shades of Green on KDWN. We'll be right back.